everyone, and welcome to the American Scouser podcast. That intro is a lot shorter, so you have to be ready to roll because it doesn't have like the long one that we had before. It is the Monday night podcast. We are back as always, the trio back in action on Monday night. I'm your host, as always, Timushin here in Chicago. Beautiful weather, just beautiful, perfect grilling weather. Just ate and came straight over here. Gally is with us as always. What's happening, Gally?
Well, that's okay. Wife's out of town means I'm not usually in a good position. Today was a weird day, so we'll see how we get on this Memorial Day.
And Bigler is in the house, using his what it sounded like radio from like the '60s in the background right before we went on air. What's happened?
Yeah, it's the weather update. It is not very good grilling weather. It's been rainy, like spit and rain here all day. So just been a good day to lay around. I'm doing that thing where I'm frenetically and anxiously pacing because we are now hours away from the work week having to start back up again. So
Oh yeah, for those of you guys who had the long, some of people had like 3, 4 day weekends and stuff like that. Losers like myself, we had to work in the morning. I had worked a little bit today to make up for tomorrow. But I mean, normally, this was going to be very similar to this morning's show. We were going to talk about the trophy celebration. We were going to talk about the parade. Try not to talk about trends and do all those things that was kind of like planned, similar to what we did this morning. The Prey was like kind of like fun to watch along to. I still want that playlist because I do want to add it to my Spotify. It sounded like my Spotify playlist anyway. So it was like really fun to watch. And obviously afterwards we find out about the tragedy that happened. So don't have a lot of like full details. I know there was the press conference and stuff like that. So I don't want to go too much into it and speculate or anything like that. But we do still have to observe that, what happened. And it's kind of like sucks that an event like this, and unfortunately, this stuff sadly happens, right? I mean, we've seen it happen here in the US too. Was that New Orleans? I think it happened New Year's Day or something like that, right? Like a car going into the crowd and stuff like that. I mean, if you've seen any of the footage, it is horrific to watch. So several obviously injured. I mean, honestly, if you watch the footage, what I heard, unconfirmed numbers. So we were talking with Gally before we went on air. We don't want to throw out numbers because none of them are like fully confirmed, but a few in critical condition as well. But I'll be honest, like when I watched the footage, it definitely seemed a lot worse, or it could have been even worse and stuff like that. But it kind of sucks, Bickler, that instead of talking about the good stuff, the fun stuff, that we kind of have to talk about this a little bit, and it kind of like dampens the entire mood of the city that was partying yesterday, was partying today, and probably in the upcoming days with some great news and stuff was going to keep partying for shit rest of the summer probably. But now it's more of like a mourning thing than a celebration thing.
yeah, it's just a sad distraction. I think obviously our thoughts and wishes go out to the families of everybody affected, or just the people that were even there. I think it's just this we've got no place as a society in general globally where like unfortunately when there are large groups of people that are celebrating anything, it's an easy target for things. And I'm not here to suggest a motivation here. It's just unfortunate that like we can't as a society globally join together and not expect the worst. So um looking forward to talking about some positive things because this is sure a damper on our celebration. And I know that we were all really looking forward to having a weekend together after waiting 35 years to do this with fans.
Yeah, I mean, we even like discussed it before. I don't know. Everybody is different when something like this happens, so I don't want to generalize it. My coping mechanism has always been humor. That's just kind of like my personality. I mean, even like the most tragic of events, like my dad passing and stuff like that. My coping mechanism for most things is humor, and this usually is. I mean, we know it's officially therapy for Bickler, but unofficially therapy for the rest of us who are on this channel. So I kind of still wanted to like kind of like go ahead with it and hopefully talk about some positive things and maybe along the way have a couple of laughs and like kind of like distract us because sadly that stuff is always there. It should not be forgotten. It should be noticed, but I don't know where you're at with the Galley. Obviously, it's kind of like the more you hear or the more you see, the worse it is. I almost like kind of try to tune it out a little bit because it's almost a little too depressing, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, we watch this beautiful game because we want to escape
Yeah, exactly.
it that is the real world, right? Like this is a sport, and that's what makes us mad when racism creeps its head into this game. Like things that creep its head into this beautiful sport is what bothers us because it's our escape from regular life. And then a day like today, where something so trivial as like a parade in the rain. I mean, these are millions of people out,
Yep.
piss poor conditions because they all have a mutual interest. And for whatever reason, I'm not going to speculate. I don't even want to speculate. I don't want to know. I really don't. I don't want to know anything about this, to be honest. I don't want any of the facts other than how many people survived. That's the most important thing at this point. Um, I think it just shows you what happens in society today that we're just so quick to jump on these negative stories and we're just so quick to just run things rampant. And I think we had to talk about it to your point, and hopefully we can have a really fun show and still at the end recognize like this was a really what is unfortunately another negative day in this club's history, which is supposed to be such a wonderful day. And I think that's what's most unfortunate for me is that we had to once again go back to like the tragedy side of things when we celebrate, and it just doesn't feel right.
Yeah, I mean, I was telling Gali before we went on air. I mean, growing up in Istanbul, especially back in those days and stuff like that, I am maybe perhaps a bit more used to sadly tragic events. We don't know like the motivation behind this and stuff like that, but like terrorism and stuff like that, things exploding, soldiers here, people with guns there and stuff like that, within like almost like a regular part of society, kind of an ordeal. So growing up with that, I may be like a bit more numb, unfortunately, which is a sad thing to say when things like this happen because I've seen it so much. But it's sad because I feel like more and more people are becoming numb to it because it is happening a lot more often. And yeah, I mean, like you said, this is meant to be an escape. I guess my hope is, there are no casualties. Obviously, there are injured, but hopefully there are no long-term issues and no casualties. So this kind of almost, I don't want to say forgotten, but it doesn't dampen the entire overall thing because at the end of the day, but I'm sure it's a very horrifying event for anybody over there. And I know a lot of people, I mean, my feed is full of people because out of several supporter clubs in the US over here, everybody had one or two people who traveled. And that's the first thing you think of. And we have, people like Kazi. I know like Jamie has family and stuff like that. Sir Z probably does. There are a lot of people who have family there. So that's your first thought. I mean, like I say, when something happens in Istanbul, like an earthquake or something like that, that's like pop. That's the first thing that pops out. Like, is everybody I know okay? Kind of an ordeal. So I just hope at the end of the day that what we get is good news on all fronts, and this will just kind of like be something to watch out for security in the future. But like I say, I don't want to go dissect the whole event because we don't have all the facts. They haven't given us all the facts, but I figured we should address it either way. And I think this is pretty much like the most we should do about it without giving more opinion without having facts and stuff like that. But somebody did say, where is the trivia? So all we can do is go back to normalcy, and at least I can have a little bit of fun, and these guys' misery can continue. So let's go with today's trivia. Heads up that BJ is very excited that Sunderland is coming up to the Premier League. So it's going to be a lot of Sunderland questions coming up probably your guys' way. But so with Sunderland coming over here, the next season Liverpool is facing Sunderland in the Premier League fixture again at the Stadium of Lights for the first time since January 2nd, 2017. Well, what was the score? We'll go with that first. He made it a bit easier. I'm going to make this a bit more challenging over here.
Whoa. BJ made it easy.
I mean, easier. No, I'm not saying easier. Gally has bought you enough time, Victor. What you got?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's
I'm
Sunderland.
gonna pull over here.
I
I
would
will
think
tell
we
you
would
guys
have.
this.
I mean,
Sturridge and Mane
17.
scored for us.
I would.
I was
I
gonna
mean,
say 2-1.
yeah. I don't know. I would think that we would have won. I would have said like 3-2, 2-1. Yeah.
Yeah, our goals were scored by Sturridge and Mane. Yeah, I mean he did give half a score, so that was part of it. It was 2-2. Who scored? Who are the scorers of Sunderland?
I don't. Lee Cattermole. I don't remember who was playing for Sunderland.
That's a good one you pulled over there. That's vintage. I mean, really, the only other guy that comes to mind when scoring goals for Sunderland and stuff. Jermaine?
Yeah, wasn't he there? I don't think he was there then.
Yes. Hassan has got.
Did you get them both?
Oh.
Was it?
Yes, both from penalties, penalty equalizers. And who was our goalie?
Mignolet.
Yes, 2 penalty goals past Mignolet.
Which is shocking because usually if he had a couple penalties to save in a match, he'd make at least one of them, and then he'd kick another one into the net on his own.
No, his thing was like he has the worst aerial presence of anybody over 6'2" I've ever seen in my life. Like, I don't know if he just like it was like watching my golden doodle who is half retriever and half poodle like figure out mid-flight that doesn't have all the retriever instincts and can't track a ball. That's what it was. That's what it was like when it was in the air with him.
You know, we have 2 golden retrievers. Stitch literally takes the stuff and leaves. But Leo has some retriever genes. He brings it back, but then he won't give it to you until he gnaws on it for like 5 minutes and slobbers all over it. So it's always fun. The second and third throws are always a lot more fun.
I got a lab or doodle that I wish didn't think he was a retriever because he will run a ball and bring it back to you and literally stare at you to the point where like he comes to me on the couch, like watching TV and is like, no, throw the ball. I'm like, the living room down here is only so big, dude. You can't really run. And this asshole still tries to make me throw a ball for like, I have to roll it on the floor. This is how stupid this dog is. Then he just like laps at it and just looks at it. How do you not throw it?
Can they catch it in the air like a fly ball? That's what we do with Leo inside the house. Can he touch it? And he never does. Bounces off of his teeth and stuff. Southwestern Eagle says, "I heard about the parade. I hate this world today." I mean, unfortunately, yeah, right. Like you hear the news, especially I don't know because we were on such a high that suddenly going to such a low kind of made a big effect too. But I think somebody was saying earlier that like it's just not like some people like Cersei, like like this following Liverpool was kind of like a thing away from this. I mean, honestly, sports soccer, especially playing it, I would say, watching it is more stressed than probably. But I know playing it, and I found this out afterwards. I wish I knew it through the high school years and the youth as well, but I found out afterwards in college in my intro to psychology class that it was actually my coping mechanism for anger. So now you guys know why I play defense and all those sliding tackles were going. They were to cope with my anger, supposedly. So, but yeah, I mean, like I say, hopefully everything will be for the best, and we'll try to talk. We kind of talked about the negative. Let's try to talk about a bit about the positive. Obviously, yesterday was a great day overall. I don't know about you, Bickler. As I watch it, as awesome as it was more awesome for the guys who did not get to do the trophy lift before in front of the fans. For the most part, the players had already enjoyed the moments after the Spurs game because every single one, because the question, I don't know why the question always was, have you ever seen anything like this? And they were like, yes, the Spurs game. And it was every time was the answer too. And it felt like, those guys like the Gravenberg and stuff like that, really, that was their moment. And this was really cool too. But it really felt like guys like Van Dijk, Robertson, and Ali, they enjoyed yesterday on a different level, aside from the Spurs game, like post Spurs game, just because they got to do with the fans now. So you could always, I mean, we always knew, but doing it last time without the fans was kind of like a damn, that doesn't feel right.
Nah, yeah, it was nice to see them kind of be able to finally celebrate with the fans. I think one of my favorite, like, there's all these favorite moments that, like, when you're watching it live, you're like, oh, it's a good moment, and then there's like pictures that you look back at like over the next couple of days as they kind of load up, and I just think that one of like, I think the one of Allison on top of the net, like, is got to be like, that's gonna go down as one of those classic photos. I think it
Yep.
just, it had a really special feel, and like, just the look on his face is like, when you reach such a high and you really get to sort of let it sink in and absorb it. I mean, I gotta imagine it's like going up to, like, scaling the summit of a mountain, finally making the top, and then watching the sun come over it. It's got to feel like that. It just was one of those classic moments. I thought that photo has to become iconic for just him and what he's meant to this club. I think we made some comments about the fact that, like, I think a lot of us were a little bit uncomfortable or didn't love the fact that, like, what was a team moment was becoming a Trent moment towards the end of that game, because of the broadcast. But I think it was nice to see him actually seem like he was enjoying himself, like genuinely enjoying himself. I know that there's been a lot made about the tears. I'm not going to speculate and make it about him. I do think that there is I do think that this is a tough chapter for him to close. I think that this is difficult. The sense that I got is some of those tears were tears of relief, like relief that
Yeah.
this chapter is closing for him, and he can move it on, and celebrate it. And I think I relatively had it together until I saw Harvey lose it, and then I lost it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, let's make a brief moments here to talk about trends and then put him in the
Yeah.
category of Real Madrid players we don't talk about after that. But since, like you said, Bickler, the broadcasts, whichever channel you watch, made it more about Trent than everybody else, which was kind of like annoying knowing, I don't know who was that geared towards, because I know if the broadcast and the directing is geared toward Liverpool fans who are probably going to be watching that, I would say a huge majority did not want to see that as much as they did. But it did look like, Gally, that it was more the relief of that it didn't turn out bad. So once he got the first applause and he knew that it was going to go bad, that's, I think, the fear got off his shoulder so much. He looked like he was enjoying himself the most over there, mainly due to the relief, probably, of the lack of drama.
As soon as he was subbed in and he was clapped on when he walked on the pitch, and it wasn't loud, by the way. Let's not kid ourselves. It wasn't like a raucous applause. There were quite a few people who kept themselves quiet, which is what I would have done if I were in the stadium, I think. He knew he was going to be okay when they handed him the trophy. He knew when he did the celebration in front of the cop, it would be okay. And I was completely fine with it. I'm with Paul. The relief on his face when he hugs his mom and like the actual, like, true, like, weeping tears, those aren't crocodile tears. Like, I think there were some crocodile tears. I think there was some theatrics for the cameras, but we'll get into that in a different day. I think the moment with his mom, though, was real. And I think it was the culmination of all of it, the decision, what they're all going through. Because let's be real. Like, Trent's getting a lot of shit. So is
Yeah.
his family. Every angle, they are getting it. The brothers, the mother, the father, they're all getting it. Like, this is a family decision for him to make this move. And I think you can almost see it in that moment. And for me, it was a little refreshing because he was vulnerable again. Like, he was actually like a regular human. And then he kind of turned around and he took it all in. And to be honest, then it ended. They cut the camera and I never wanted to see his face again.
Yeah, I think, there was a lot to be made about it, like, especially his haters about like the crocodile tears and stuff like that. I do think that crying was like genuine. I think like it's kind of like all overblows, and I don't know if you've ever been in a situation, but sometimes like you're kind of like holding it, and you hug somebody or somebody, like you do something, and it just like all comes out. So it felt very natural to me. There was a lot of other I'll sit here by myself kind of moments for the camera that I didn't care as much for, because I thought those were more staged. The crying parts with the family, I think that's when like the emotions kind of like just go out kind of thing. So um yeah, I mean, there was. I know like what Lindy is talking about, because I think we said the same thing. We discussed it when he posted that Instagram photo. And I know, like, I've seen, I think, like, Bickler, you were in that conversation in one of the Facebook groups as well. It's just like, who is doing this kid's PR, for God's sakes? Because he has to get rid of him. Because this is like, dude, stop. Like, just stop. Because
Maverick
everybody,
Carter.
like Lindy's saying, can see through it. So just stop doing this stuff. You should have done, I mean, I think Matush was talking about it this morning. He should have done the farewell speech instead of like a, like a terrorist who got caught asking for his friends to surrender, like a North Korean video that he recorded over there for him to leave. He should have just done, just talk to the camera. I mean, I just don't understand how people are getting paid for this. He can pay me to be his PR. I would do a lot better job than whoever is doing it. But like I say, I don't want to spend any more time talking about Real Madrid players. Might as well talk about Carvajal at this point. But parting thoughts, Victor, real quick, in a minute or less. In 3 words or less.
No, I mean, I think despite all the negatives that Trent thought, the obvious situation with the crowd today, I think it was still just. I mean, I know the players feel this way, but I certainly feel like this is the first title that we've gotten to properly celebrate. I mean, the last one was just, the COVID year was just so weird and hollow, and this one felt like a legitimate title. So it was nice to see the fans and the city be able to come together and actually, celebrate that thing together.
Galley, 3 words or less. I'll give you 10 words. 10 words or less.
Are we talking about Trent?
Trent, yeah, we're wrapping it up. After that, we're going to talk about Trent as much as we talk about Carvajal.
Bye. Adios, Madrid. Enjoy the whistles.
Yes, I think so too. Lindy and Andrew, welcome aboard. Okay, so let's go back to let's go stay with yesterday. Bickler, I mean, you kind of like mentioned it in terms of the iconic moments. Anything that caught your eye, now that we got the Trent thing out of the way, which was half the broadcast, I know. But by the way, I did already spill my guts and voice my anger this morning. But when I was watching the post match, we did the watch along. The moment the watch along was done, we wanted to watch the trophy celebration and stuff like that. So we went off of air. So I went downstairs, and Peacock is going to commercials, and the players are off the pitch, they're getting ready or whatever. And I was like, oh, they're like doing interviews, they're showing the Chelsea goal and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, this is not going to be good. So I switched to LFC TV, and I could not believe how horrible the coverage was, because they did not show the players. And I figured that would be the good coverage. They didn't show the players. It was just like the studio in the corner that no player is going to. More players went over and talked to NBC than they did to LFC TV. And as I'm watching it, I hear somebody talking in the background to the stadium, and I was like, I think that's fucking Van Dijk. I think he's talking to the stadium. So I literally had to switch back to Peacock to NBC's broadcast and rewind back to see what it was. I already had spilled my guts, but I'm so angry about it, I might as well do it again. I just did not understand it all. But in terms of like overall coverage, now that Trent is out of the way, Bickler, what is one thing that you'll take away from that whole trophy presentation?
Oh gosh, there's a lot of little moments. I think the big one, the other probably bigger one that people talk about that I did think was relevant was watching Harvey's reaction. Obviously means a lot for him as a local kid, and to have like more of a part to play in this one, kind of like Curtis probably meant a lot. I think that the sort of speculation that it's a reaction from somebody that knows that he's probably not going to be here next year to experience that, I think is a very, very, very real possibility. So I think that probably had a part to play in this thing.
How about you, Gally? Because I know, I did the same thing. Like, as you watch players' reactions, you're like trying to decipher the emotion behind it, kind of a deal. But like a thing that kind of like you're going to take away from the trophy ordeal.
I mean, I said it to you this morning in your morning show. I said, What I realized more than anything watching the idiocy that was unfolding was that Simicast might not be a very good footballer, but he is an exceptionally good human being that everyone in that entire side loves. Because that dude parties and he has fun, and like they're gonna miss him. Like we're lucky that Frimpong has the personality he has because he kind of replaces that big effervescent. But I think we all joked when he got the extension 2 years ago. And we were like, why are they signing a left back who gets 15 games a year and the manager doesn't even like? And the club told the manager, you don't have to play him, but we're going to sign him because everybody but you likes him a
And he
lot.
makes Mo
Like a
Salah
real
profit,
lot.
so
Like he makes Mo Salah really happy. And I hope Frimpong can make Mo Salah his coffee or do whatever Simicast used to do, but I do really believe like that's what came out to me when he was up on the on the dais, and you could see the way the players respond to him, like they party with him like it's fun, like he's a big part of that dressing room, and I think he is. And it'll be sad when he leaves for the fact that he was important to the dressing room. He wasn't that important on the field, other than giving Tim content every Monday night.
yeah, I mean, you can kind of tell that. And honestly, it's important to have guys like that. I mean, he's kind of, well, not as effective as Divock, but in terms of it's good to have some guys who are content with their role as well, but can deliver when they're called upon. And I think that's one I would like him to be better on the pitch along to go with that personality.
If only he delivered when he was called upon.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's the thing. I think if you got a bit more of that, I think it's always good to have some squad players who are content with being the backup, understand that role, and not going to cause trouble, and kind of keep working for like the betterment of the team, kind of a deal. But honestly, yes, Matush, do not even start that because I that just drives me. See, he does it on purpose because he knows it gets under my skin that he won us the FA Cup the narrative because he happened to take the last penalty. Can we please get over this? But
Yeah.
It was a good penalty. It was a good penalty.
inevitable. He won us an FA Cup. No, he did not. He just took the last penalty. But no, I mean, I think he's been a valuable in that sense. I think it's important to have guys like that in the squad. I mean, you see some teams, right, that might have quality in their squad. I mean, look at United and stuff like that, but it just does not click because you do need that locker room to be strong. And honestly, like days like today, days like yesterday will only make us stronger. I think like winning together kind of like is a bigger thing. But honestly, like when I was watching it yesterday, over the last few weeks, I should say, maybe ever since he like re-signed and made it official, I feel like we're seeing. We talked about this earlier this year that we're seeing a totally different Van Dijk when it comes to being a captain. I mean, we talked about it initially. It was kind of like a night and day between Hendo's style and his style and stuff like that. And I think it was hard to be himself and a leader when you already had Klopp there because he kind of like cast a big shadow. And maybe the manager being Dutch helps. Maybe his personality helps Bickler, but it feels like he's a totally different guy in terms of being a captain and taking charge. And I really like as I watched him yesterday, getting the trip for Hansen and like him appreciating the club, the history. You look at him like look at the stands, look around and stuff like that yesterday. I'm seeing a guy who is really, really appreciating the situation he is in, appreciating the club, and like you look at him as he's looking at the crowd in the cup as he's singing "You'll Never Walk Alone" after they got the trophy, and it's just like a guy who says, "Man, I made an awesome decision again," kind of a deal. I don't know, maybe I'm just like reading too much into it, but he seems like a total different dude.
Yeah, no, I think like the last like 12 to 18 months, I feel like Van Dijk has really grown not only into like being a captain, but like grown into his own personality. Like, I mean, he's always been like this big um presence physically, right? But I think that like for the most part, he's led with kind of like he's been sort of the calm voice of reason to Jordan Henderson's high pitched chaos. Like when they were like when Jordan Henderson had the captain's armband, and of course we had questions about whether Verge could do it and adopt. And I really feel like halfway through this year, he really found his voice. And like, it wasn't just the way that he was sort of directing the back line. It wasn't even really the way that he was talking to his own players, which I think was dramatically improved from last year. But I think it was the way that he was handling games with like referees throughout the season. Like, I felt he did a lot more of that. He did a lot more of intervening and being the go-to point of contact. And I think that's really important because I think throughout matches, you almost have to be managing a relationship with the person who's supposed to be managing the game. And like, I thought that Verge has been doing that a lot better. I mean, he just looks so much more at ease. Like, you saw him doing the mural unveiling this week, prior to the match, and he just looks so much more comfortable with the press, the cameras, the people of Liverpool. I'm sure putting a big contract behind you certainly helps. Yeah. But it feels like a guy who sort of has grown into his own personality and feels really comfortable with himself right now.
Lindy says something like Robo is leaving based on his interview. I see it like as I think guys who might maybe guys who don't know exactly their future or where it's at. Did you get that sense from Robertson, Galli? Because it just seemed like, I don't know. I think that's how he is. Like, that's how he talks and sort of like we'll see what happens when this happens and stuff like that.
I thought it was kind of ho-hum. I thought it was more ho-hum because it was the end of the year and I only have 1 year left on my deal. We'll see what happens here. But I think it's also, he's not a dummy and he's really, really smart. And he knows that there's links that they're bringing in a left back. Like, so he's also kind of laying it out there. Like, if the club doesn't want me to be here, like, I'll go. Like, if I have to go. I mean, Celtics signed Kieran Tierney to come back home and be their left back moving forward from Arsenal. So that was kind of the move that made the most sense if anyone was going to sign him. I almost feel like he gets a 1 year bumper, literally, so they can get a fee next year for him. Because I think he is that kind of like a little.
By then, he will get injured, or
no, he'll make sure that they get a fee for him on his way out of town because he's got a little bit of that. Like, I love everybody around here, but I ain't going out like that guy. Like, I'm gonna do right. Like, he's Andy Robertson. That's the opposite. He'd sign a deal under market value to make sure the club got a fee. And I think that's why I don't worry about whether he comes or goes. Like, his comments are probably because he knows within 72 hours there's a good chance they're going to sign a left back from the Premier League who is named in this year's Premier League's team of the season.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing. I'm sure he knows, and I would think it's just a matter of, is he comfortable with the role they will offer him because you're not going to bring in Kirkas to like totally split time. Is Robertson is going to be okay? But I mean, we've seen it in the beginning of the season that Slot likes to sub his left back and right back, and we don't know how we're going to play. We don't know where Frimpong is going to play and all that kind of stuff. So it might be a case where he does get a different situation. But from what all of the players say, Slot is pretty brutally honest with them in terms of what's going to happen. It's just a matter of, is Robertson going to like what he's hearing over there? I do hope he stays, because I think a Robertson with a week's rest is a good Robertson. A Robertson is a guy that I would want the captain decide when they go on a League Cup game, when they go on an FA Cup game and stuff like that, or there's like a rubber match or something like that in the Champions League and all that kind of stuff. That's the person that I would want to get the armband and like be the leader on the pitch and stuff like that. But that's the only thing. Like Linda says, though, we know Costas is happy with his role. I just don't know if Robertson is going to be. But at the same time, I would think Costas would get some suitors from other places, but it could be kind of like an Ox kind of deal where he's like, I'm just happy over here, not going anywhere. So let's talk about, man, I don't want to talk about this one because this is like a jinx waiting to happen. I really hate talking about.
Freaks him out.
And freaking like YouTube is harassing the hell out of me. Just a little bit ago, as I was setting up this show, it was like, hey, you want to watch Worst destroy Bayern? I was like, no, I don't. I don't want to watch anything until it's official over here. But you know what? I worry about that, actually. Don't even start it, but I do worry about that. Bickler, obviously.
He's absolutely going to Fenerbahce. He might even play on the basketball team, the Euro champion basketball team.
Damn right, people. The Champions League of basketball, basically. Fenerbahce won it yesterday. So after the trophy lift of Liverpool, I got to watch the trophy lift. Did you know, fun fact, for like the Euro League, which is, like I say, the Champions League of basketball in Europe, and Real and Barcelona, Olympiacos, all these teams, they're like sport clubs. They actually have basketball teams, volleyball teams, and all that kind of stuff. They don't have medals. They actually get miniature trophies. It looked like a rec game when they set up the table initially, like where everybody gets a trophy kind of a deal. But actually, I thought it was kind of cool because when they do take the pictures at the end, everybody has their own trophy and stuff like that. But it was kind of like fun to watch. But let's get back to the worst conversation that PIG brought up. Rumors, Bickler, and I would think we were waiting for this parade. So the next Galley said 72 hours. That might even be a bit too generous in some ways. I do feel like we're going to get some news right away. They were waiting for this. All three of them is it going to go through, first of all?
Are you asking if all three transfers are going to happen?
Yes.
Oh God.
What's your gut feeling over here? Frimpong?
My gut feeling is there's too much smoke on all of them. And there's too much, there's too many strong links in terms of
ease my fears, Bickler. God damn it.
I know. Well, when you're talking about the players and the pieces involved, there's just too many connections between the Hughes Bournemouth connection and all the Dutch connections with the Verts thing. I'll tell you what, I know it's when you're talking about a player like the character, the sort of the quality of Verts, it's hard not to get excited. But I think one of the things that I got most excited about is hearing essentially that he was sold on the football project itself. And because essentially by all reports are that he was sold on the manager, essentially getting on with him and walking his family through a very detailed sort of executed plan of what he would do tactically and where he would be playing and what this would look like as he ages in the side. To me, that shows a level of proactive thinking and depth that I think is a difference maker at this level. And I just kind of imagine him being oh, and I'm also gonna cue in somebody who wants to talk to you a little bit on the Zoom call. And you see Gravenberch go up on the side and being yeah, they didn't have shit planned for me at Bayern because Gravenberch was there, and part of the problem was not only could he not get in, they didn't seem to have a definitive plan for how they were going to use him. And I think that was sort of one of the big difference makers, not only Bayern waiting to try to get this price down on the player, but them failing to communicate with the Verts camp on how they were going to use him. And this is probably a little bit of Bayern being able to sit on some laurels and just poach the best German tactic, players year after year and build out like that. So it's exciting to see that, but I'm more excited about the fact that there is, we've seen players like Darwin come in. We've talked about players like Elliott. For a long time, we talked about Soboslai. How do they fit into the system? Where do they go? And to hear that there was a conversation like that from the manager, I'm just really excited to see how that actually plays out.
Yeah, I stayed up for 3 nights straight following it. Yes, preach, dude, preach. That's where I'm at too. That's why I'm afraid of this overall. But it does sound like a little bit of Bayern almost being a bit too cocky, Galdi. But let's face it, I was asked this a couple of weeks ago, I think in the morning show, and I was like, there's no way. This is all a negotiation tactic, Liverpool name being thrown in there for Verts. And it's all because we always know that the German, Bayern gets what they want in Germany in Bundesliga. I know Bayer Leverkusen is kind of like the exception. They don't sell to them. I know Ta, for example, was rumored for the last 4 or 5 years. He goes there now because the contract is over and stuff like that. But do you think Bayern almost was a little too cocky and too comfortable, didn't put enough effort to really kind of what Bickler is saying, explain what his role is going to be? It was more well, come on over here. We'll figure it out when you get here, kind of a deal.
Sorry, the comments are just getting me right now.
That's why you turn the comments off. Dude, leave it to me.
No, don't worry. They're good. They're good right now. I don't think Bayern was too cocky. I think Bayern was Bayern. This is what Bayern does. Bayern expects to get every great German player and not care. But here's the problem, and you guys talked about it this morning. I was planning to bring it up today, which irritated me when you talked about it this morning. Like, and you talked about it last week too. No, you talked about it last week too. Like, they have Elise and Musala already in the setup. These are the players playing in this like 22-year-old's position. And I think this is where the Anfield Rap got it right. I think they made a call, to Paul's point, and it was the manager clearly articulating how he could maximize this young man's career. And I think what he said is you do a lot of what we need and what we've wanted for years. As a club, you are going to be something we don't have.
Yes.
And your special will add to our special. And watch on Monday when that parade happens, and watch Sunday. And you saw us win this league, and your best mate is coming here. And just, do you want to be part of this or not? And I don't think they actually put a hard sell. I actually think Liverpool came into this like the poppers out of the wind. Like, I think a phone call rang at Liverpool, and it was the Verts people being like, hey, are you interested? We're coming up there to meet. Do you guys want to meet in Blackpool? And literally they went, and then they wowed them to the point where the guy's shopping for houses. This is a kid who 4 years ago, when he went to Leverkusen from Cologne, was literally getting $150 a week allowance from his parents. They took his money. He lives at home. They don't care about
the Britney Spears of football, if you will.
No, but they don't care about the money. They care about this kid's future, because we all joke about Mo Salah winning the Ballon d'Or, and we hope he wins the Ballon d'Or. I'll tell you right now, if this kid lives up to what he could be at Liverpool, he has a much better chance of winning a Ballon d'Or someday, because he plays for the German national team,
yes,
which means they're going to win international trophies. And he has a chance to become the most. I mean, Kazi said it, right? This is the most influential signing maybe the club has ever tried to make. They're signing one of the best 5 players in the world, under 25. This is Mbappe without his mother.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the kid's definitely is impressed by what, and he's gonna play a role that I can see. Like, it was probably easy to sell because he's something that we don't have in this midfield. He's kind of like a mix of a couple of players combined and stuff like that. And I'm sure there's a major plan for him. I guess my bigger question, and by the way, loving the chat over there. If you're watching us right now, give us a thumbs up. I always forget to say this, but it does go a long way. Some push who doesn't know about us, with your thumbs up, can get exposed to this. So if you want to punish others, hit the thumbs up so they get to see the broadcast as well. But I guess my bigger question is, what do you think that selling point was? Because we know about him free roaming, and that's where he's best at. You can't have him free roaming around and Mo not defending, so he gets goals and stuff like that. So do you think at the end, and with the price tag, I guess that's my approach to it, is with the price tag that he would come at, I almost feel like this is your striker at the same time. He's coming in to play like a false 9, because I don't see us spending this money for the midfield and then going after another striker that's a high dollar striker afterwards.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head. I was going to actually ask you guys what you think of that, because I think I think the Redman podcast made a pretty good point about I don't know how much of this was actually, we went into the summer thinking realistically we're going to get this player. So when this when this happens like this sort of changes everything you're doing, right? And I think that's probably why you get the plane trip to Boston to say, hey, Daddy, we're fixing the funds. We got to find something else. How are we gonna yes, can we get a little bit of an advance here on some of this? And I think I hesitate, because a lot of the stuff that he's doing and has done has been really more on the left side of a formation. He can play in any of the top 6 formations. I think I really struggle with this, because every time we get an exciting player, whether it's Nunez or Chiesa, or anytime we get a player that's somewhat exciting and an attacking mid, I'm like, oh, we should play him as the false nine because I still miss Bobby so much. And I think I'm looking for the next Bobby, and there's probably not going to ever be another one. And so I do think this changes the idea of going out and getting your sort of talisman striker. I do think this changes that. I know that there's a lot of rumblings for other, I've seen rumblings for just about all the big top 6 strikers in Liverpool involved. I know that's probably just speculative stuff. Maybe there's a situation where one of those sneaks in. I think when you look at this thing, I think that he's got to be playing. I think you have 2 options. I think you have the ability to sort of mimic what they're doing in possession and playing sort of a modified 3-4-3, in which he ends up playing as one of these sort of free roaming attacking 10s in that system, which you could, theoretically do with Mo on the other side. I think when you look at the pieces we have, it makes more sense for him to go in a modified 3-4-3 where he is playing sort of as a 9, where he sinks in and kind of sinks into the mids, and sort of does those things where we talk about his vision, right? Like he sees passes that not a lot of players, like very similar to what Thiago did, but from a deeper position. I think that Verts can come in and do a lot of those things, dropping deep into the middle and then acting as sort of a 3rd, 4th attacker going forward. So I do think that, in my opinion, given the money spent, given how he's known to play, like, to me, it makes sense to plug him in as that 9. I'm hesitant because I thought it was obvious with Chiesa. I thought we'd see Gakpo doing it. I thought we'd see Darwin doing it, and we haven't. So we'll just have to wait and see here.
And I guess like my thing is, it's not only the money part, Gally, because they might have a different target that they go after for, I don't know, like 30 to 50 million range if you sell like Nunez and you get some money and stuff like that. But it just feels like defensively, if you get another striker and you have Verts out there and you're telling Mo, just get me goals, you don't have to defend. And it's not like you're going to change that approach to Mo as he gets older and say, hey, now you have to defend more, by the way, as you get older because you signed your contract. I would think you kind of keep him in that role. I don't think you can't afford to have too many guys who are going to not have a lot of defensive responsibility. That's why I'm kind of putting him possibly in that role.
But all accounts, he's actually like, he presses like a monster. Like his numbers, his work rate is actually exceptional for a creative player who is arguably like one of the most creative players under the age of 25 in all of football. And he presses, he tracks back, he works hard. I think he fits this club literally to a T. And I think it's what they haven't had in years and years and years. I think it could be like the first true number 10. Like when Coutinho was here before Klopp, Brendan Rodgers let him play kind of like a 10. Do the thing, float around, try to create. You're everything. You make the goals, you score some goals, you create the passes. I think Slot is going to make this kid every bit the star he can be. And I think he knows it. And I think it's why he's joining this club. And I think it's why mom and dad decided this was the right club for him to go to. Because it was Vincent Kompany's plan and it was Arne Slot's plan. And both won a title in their first year. And both look completely different. Bayern kind of backed into their title and almost at times looked like they were going to give it away. And Liverpool literally moonwalked to a title. And at the end of it, we're like, and it's getting even better. Wait till you see what happens next. Like, I think what's happening in the next 2-3 years at Liverpool is like going to be really, really special. And I think Florian Wirtz is going to be the centerpiece of it all. And that might make Mo Salah angry, but like by mid-season next year, the best player at Liverpool will be wearing whatever number Florian Wirtz is wearing.
And I guess here's another thing. I mean, the kid is only 22, and you have Mo for another max of 2 years. So it's not like, like Mo is like 22 too. So you're making some ridiculously long-term plans for both of them together. I mean, I love the fact, and that's why I don't want to jinx it. And if it does get jinxed, I'm going to blame BIG for bringing this up in the first place, because I was looking to avoid it until it was official. Bringing him in with Frimpong, I think, is another awesome move, because I have seen YouTube videos of Frimpong, and a lot of those balls are coming from Words, by the way. So it's a guy who's very familiar with the ridiculous pace he has at where to send the ball. I mean, similar to the dynamic you have with Trent and Mo. I mean, we talk about missing that next season, that built dynamic. I think you're kind of almost getting that in a different part of the pitch with your like right winger, right back, and your attacking midfielder. I just find it interesting to see if they will put somebody in front of him, because he's a free roamer. I know what you mean in terms of like his pressing, Gally, but it just feels like because he thrives on that kind of like a free roam role, when you lose the ball, he might not be in the position you need him to be defensively. And that's, I think the part that kind of worries me.
That's where I think we might end up playing with the four midfielders and kind of playing in a role where he floats around. And you're right. And I think the two attackers, though, if you're playing with four midfielders, to Paul's point, where Gravenberch drops back into kind of a back three in possession, now those two, Frimpong and Kirkez, just bomb forward. They create your width. And Diaz, Gakpo, or Mo are playing a little bit more, internally, and Wirtz is just pulling the strings in between. And Szoboszlai is still doing all the running he does and all the work he needs to do. And it feels to me like that is where we're moving to. I could be totally wrong, but it feels to me like that's the way we go. And it comes back to the whole, like, what made Frimpong so good at Leverkusen was the way that Alonso played and kind of set up through him. It just feels like that might be where we're at. And
when you said that, I felt like Szoboszlai. I was gonna see something on the bottom said Szoboszlai left the chat or something like that. He's like, I still gotta do all this goddamn running. Go ahead.
Oh, he's still doing the running, and he has to play deeper.
I also think what happens is, like, if you are playing essentially a modified 3-4-3 in possession, what that does is not only utilize your two young fullbacks who like to get up and get forward like that, but pushing Mo and Diaz or Gakpo centrally and having Verts in the middle kind of as a recessed 10. What that does is it really protects Mo, because like where Mo has struggled this year, I mean, and it sounds ridiculous, let's say struggled, when he's just set a record for like most goal involvements in the season. But I think what we've seen is that we see him continually trying to drift in from the right and hit that left-footed bendy shot that, like he became famous for. And I think what we've seen is he really struggles out on an island now because he doesn't have the top end pace anymore. And so, like, I think if you pull him inside, you get the best of Mo and what he can do without having to solely rely on isolating his pace on the right wing.
The only thing I do see about that in terms of an issue is, if that's the game plan, then you will probably need more reinforcements for that midfield, because you're gonna have more depth. Because now you suddenly are playing four guys, so you don't want to have another year where Gravenberch plays nonstop. By the way, we should start something where we select a comment of the day, and I think I am going to go one over here with Jay and give the award to JB. I mean, Aaron, we all know he's still worried about. He's probably
he still thinks we're going to lose the league. He actually believes we're going to lose the league. We had a parade today, and he thinks we're going to lose.
I mean, I just don't understand the energy. It takes a lot of energy, and I guess kudos for having the energy to still fight the FSG out battle, because I would have hoped, would have given up by now, because the whole thing all along by the FSG out crew was, if it wasn't for Klopp, it would all collapse. It wasn't the system. It wasn't the people up top. It wasn't how they ran the club and stuff like that. New guy comes in, wins, and now, like, they just keep raising the bar, trying to do anything but not give him credit.
I'm enjoying the people that are complaining about the price tag on Verse right now.
Yes,
like,
I
couldn't remember. I thought we didn't have a whole lot of ambition, and now that we have ambition, it's too much money. Like,
I mean, it's one of those, like, you can't win, and I know that's the situation they're in, but I'm totally excited with, these three if it happens. I mean, we know we have a different and a weird window here, Gally. But what are your guesses? If we do sign these three, I'm not going to ask Bickler. He's depressing me, saying it might not happen. But I'll ask you, if we get these three guys in, do you think that's it for this window? We kind of sit and
No.
see how the rest, for the first part of the window, I'm sorry, before the tournament, the second window opens.
All right, maybe the first part of the window, and the reason for that is I think then you assess outgoings, and you start to figure out, like, if a big deal offer comes in for Kwanzaa and he leaves, then you definitely need a center back. Like, it's not even an option. You have to get one, if not two. If Gomez were to leave, or if
you think it's more of a replacement cost kind of moves, like
I do. I think it's responsive after the first three. I still think they could sign a striker. I really do. I believe that they are still like literally talking to Jokeres and Etatike. I think they would like both of those players, but they want them at their price. And if they get them at their price, I think they'll sign them. This is what I will say as a Red Sox fan who's watched this FSG crew a lot longer than Liverpool folks have, because they've owned my baseball team since the early 2000s. They are arrogantly aggressive. When they believe they have a chance to strike, they just go all in. That's what they do. They gamble, but then they go years without doing things like last year and say, like, we'll see how it goes. And then they win a league, and I think they're repaying the manager. And I think if there's a chance to sign a number 9 or a player that actually fits a central forward, I think they're going to do it this summer. Like, I still think that's in the cards. The only thing I don't think's in the cards anymore is the number 6, because I think between Soboslai, McAllister, and Gravenberch, they feel comfortable with those deep lying midfielders. Maybe Bashitic, you still have Endo. I think there's a big move still to come after these three get signed.
I just think the market for a true DM is non-existent right now.
Yeah, true.
That's true too.
And I don't even know, like, if that's the kind of DM he wants. Does not seem like it. But then again, we don't know, is this like basically what he made out of the current squad? But like, will he want something different if Vert screams over and stuff like that? Look at Jimbo up in the middle of the night worrying about staying up night, can't go to sleep, worrying about the Konate contract. And that is a good point, actually, though, because let's not go through this again. Everybody in this channel knows how much I love talking about contracts during the season. And I do not want to talk about the Konate contract. So that's something to address. If it is not renewed, by the time they get going again in like June and July, you gotta kind of not go through the same drama all over again. But it really depends on, like, who we go after. I do agree that there will be definitely more moves coming in, but you might be right, Cal. It might be kind of like a replacement cost thing. I mean, are you gonna get better when you spend the money? But I mean, Aaron was saying, like, in the past he's said, I think he said like Van Dijk back in the time. I mean, that's the thing. You have to pick a style and you have to support one thing. You can't just be mad when the money is not being spent and you buy $20-30 million players who you feel like going to be more valuable. You can't say, oh, they're cheap. And then when they spend the money for actually top talent and proven top talent on top of that, you can't poo-poo it saying like they're spending too much. You just got to pick a lane, man. You just got to decide. As Kazi says, it's not our money. But we still want it well spent as well. So, but your gut feeling, Bickler, is will there be a striker sign? We know Nunez for a fact is going to go. At least I'm hoping.
I mean, I'm not entirely certain. I'm not entirely certain we get one. I think that if there's one that comes through at the cost that, like Gally was saying, at the price that we want, I think they will make the move. I think like we went through windows of tumbleweeds for moments like this, and I think the club is like dedicated to building from a position of strength with a manager who plans to be here for a long time and a manager they seem to have a lot of faith in and clear communication with.
Early prediction from you in terms of the striker. I know you said you feel like it will happen, but do you think if Verts happens, that kind of affects at least the profile of player we go after, I guess, price-wise?
It definitely affects the profile of player we go after price-wise. I think I think without Verts, they literally are trying to go in for Isak. They're trying to go in for the biggest name. They're trying to get Alvarez out of Atletico Madrid. And I think that would have cost the money that it takes to get Verts. And I think because of that, it changes the spectrum. I still think a player comes in.
Jimbo says Nunez must go, and yes, please. I had even yesterday, I just can't even stand up for 10 minutes, 15 minutes in a game, in games that don't even matter. For God's sakes, I can't even stand it.
It bothered me because I thought Nunez was going to Napoli to play for Conte, and then I heard Conte, in classic Conte fashion, won a league title and walked away from a club, which is classic Conte. He wins a league title and he steps down. The guy has won 4 league titles in his first season and only once has come back for the second season.
I feel like Conte is always looking for an extended smoke break. That's all that is.
Jimbo says, sad to see anyone go, but hey, look, we talked about this before, right? After we won the title last time, I think one thing that successful teams do, especially if they want to keep winning, is you got to keep changing some stuff because the message gets stale, the things get stale in the locker room. You need new faces, you need those players challenged, and the voice in the locker room has to be new to certain people and stuff. You need some kind of a turnover, I think, to have success in any club and to get up and freshen up and to improve too. I think there are several areas that I know. The striker, for example, the center forward position. I don't think when you're playing a winger over all the center forwards you have in the entire squad over and over and over again, there's a need there. So it would be good to address that. It would be good to make some changes, but it is going to be an exciting offseason. If I'm excited about the transfer season, it's going to be something impressive. But that'll be it for us today. At least I hope we kind of got every one of us distracted a little bit. I did have an awesome song for tonight, just to piss off everybody about the parade and everything like that. I'm not going to play that because I don't, we still want to keep it, and I'll save it for next week. I don't care. It'll be a parade for me all summer. But before we go,
we get a bad song next Monday. Everyone, it's a promise. It's coming for you.
I'll tease it like that. It's in the background. All I can say is next Monday, bring your dancing shoes on. But all joking aside, I hope you were able to distract everybody for an hour or so over here. Our thoughts go to people. Hopefully, like I say, we'll get some good news tomorrow when we wake up in terms of no casualties and hopefully injuries. Yes, Calvin Harris, Timuchin Harris, Calvin Uras, whatever you want to call it. But, hoping for the best. Hope we get some good news tomorrow. But it was the worst way to probably finish these 2 days in some ways here and that. But try to stay positive, enjoy the days. Hopefully with the good news, that'll be a bit easier to do. Have a great week, everybody, and we'll see you guys same time, same place next week. Take care.